The movie continues with the ending of the last movie where Dalton and Josh are getting their memories of the further repressed. Fast forward to 9 years later, we see that Josh and Renee are now divorced. Regardless, she takes Dalton, Callie, and Foster to the funeral for Josh's mother, Lorraine. Although their relationship has been strained since the divorce, Renee asks Josh to drive Dalton to college the following week, and he agrees, hoping to make things better. After the funeral, Josh encounters a man named Carl, who claims that he was friends with Lorraine. He then returns to his car and reluctantly texts Dalton asking if he can drive him to college. We see a blurry figure approaching the car from behind, but after Dalton replies saying yes, the figure disappears. When they arrive at Dalton's liberal arts school, Josh is surprised to see that Dalton's roommate is a girl named Chris Winslow and believes that her name might have been the reason for the mix-up. Unfortunately, the attempt to fix things slightly with Dalton doesn't go well because they end up getting into an argument when Dalton hangs up photos of his drawings, which include his mother and siblings but not Josh in any of them. In his first class, Dalton is introduced to Professor Armagan, who claims she doesn't like simplistic art and tells the students to dig deeper into themselves. This triggers Dalton's memories of the further, and he ends up using the charcoal at his disposal to draw the red door. While drawing, a demon hand suddenly appears and pulls his hand to the canvas, causing him to bleed on the drawing. Meanwhile, at the same time this happens, Josh is suddenly woken up from a nightmare and begins to get haunted by an unknown man. At school, Chris suggests to Dalton that they get to know each other better, but he explains that he has no memories of when he was 10 years old and that he's been afraid of the dark ever since, which is why he sleeps with a bright nightlight. Elsewhere, Josh visits a hospital to get an MRI scan. Unfortunately, in the process, he gets haunted again. The lights go out, and he suddenly sees a man wearing a hospital gown crawl toward him. He panics and screams for help, but when the doctor comes in, he tells him that he was asleep for 15 minutes during the scan. Meanwhile, in college, Dalton and Chris hang out some more, and she invites him to a frat party with her. There, he goes into one of the frat boys, Nick's room, and accidentally goes into the further and sees the ghost of a student who vomits on him. Just then, Chris walks in and finds him hiding under the bed, so she kisses him the moment Nick arrives with the other boys to make it appear like they were just making out. After that, Dalton tries to explain his visions to Chris, so she shows him a YouTube video explaining how astral projection works, and it leads to a clip of Elise Rainier talking about the further. At home, Josh is attacked by the same strange man from before and finds a box with pictures of the man and his mother, Lorraine, which leads him to discover that the man is Ben Burton, his father, whom he never knew. Dalton then explains everything to Chris, so he tries to astral project while she watches over his body, but she gets attacked by an unseen entity, so Dalton rushes back to his body and finds out that it's the red-faced demon that tormented him as a child. After the horrible experience, Chris warns Dalton to stop using his powers, and he receives a call from his brother, Foster, telling him about a recurring dream where Josh is trying to kill them. Hearing this, Dalton's memories are triggered again, and he finishes his drawing of the red door with Josh in it possessed. Dalton ends up being pulled back into the further to the time when, possessed, Josh tried to kill them. He tries to fight him, but finds himself transported back to the red-faced demon's lair. Meanwhile, Josh digs deeper into his father's life and finds out that he killed himself in a mental hospital. Josh then visits Renee and talks with her about it, so she tells him the truth about what happened to them 9 years ago. It turns out that the reason they split up was because he got possessed by a demon in the further and tried to kill them. Unfortunately, he got his memories erased and never remembered, but she did. When Foster shows them the picture Dalton painted, they realize that he's in danger, so Renee helps Josh go back into the further to save Dalton. The red-faced demon possesses Dalton and attempts to kill Chris, but thankfully, Josh arrives just in time to stop this by saving his son. The demon chases them through the red door, and while Dalton escapes, Josh stays behind to keep it locked so that Dalton will be safe. After Dalton comes out, he uses black paint over the red door, which seals it, and the further for good. In the further, Josh meets his father's spirit, who guides him back to the world of the living. When he returns, he agrees to have dinner with Renai and the kids. Afterward, we see him reconciling with her and suggesting a possible reunion. On his way out, he sees Elise's spirit, who tells him that he and Dalton have a bright future ahead of them. Afterward, Josh drives down to Dalton's college, where he reconciles with his son. The story ends with Dalton showing his father his latest addition to his artwork. It's a painting of Josh carrying a young Dalton out of the further. That's all for today's recap. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you next time.